January 23rd, 2024 meeting of the Advisory Committee on Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Human Rights. Because it is the first meeting of the new year, this is going to be what we'll call a housekeeping meeting because we do have some new members. We do have a couple members who are out tonight, but it's a good opportunity for us to kind of take care of some business, get some training, and really, establish some of the things that we want for the new year. So everyone should have received the agenda beforehand with everything. Does anyone not receive one or have any questions beforehand? No. So what we'll do is we will go around the room and do introductions. And one of the things that we thought might be helpful is to also talk about what organizations or other groups we might be connected to. And that might be something that as the year goes on, we might be able to leverage in the work that we're trying to do in our subcommittees and the committee as a whole. So for tonight, I'll start off. Neana Fellis, chair. I work at Eastern Maine Community College. I'm tied to some other groups like Best Buddies. My entire work history is in higher education. So any other groups I work with are mostly tied to that kind of history.
Thanks. My name is Katie Bryden. I'm a nonprofit consultant, so I work with a bunch of different nonprofits that are focused in equity, namely Best Buddies, which is an organization that creates social inclusion opportunities for people with disabilities. I also work with a nonprofit that teaches women and non-binary folks how to code, so that there's always opportunities there with online expertise. I am on the board of the Boys and Girls Club as well as Bangor School Department's school committee.
It's impressive. Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney O'Donnell. I'm the Assistant City Manager and HR Director for the City of Bangor. Typically, the staff person assigned to this committee is the City Manager. Her name is Debbie Laurie. She's on vacation this week, so when she's on vacation, I get to join this lovely committee for the night.
We love it.
I'm Grace Innes. I'm the new Assistant City Solicitor. And so I'm here to give you guys a training on FOA and a little bit on ethics as well. So I don't usually attend these meetings, but I'm here today, so.
Awesome. What did you say your last name was?
Innes, Innis.
Thanks, Grace. I also take notes, so sorry if I'm being so rude. I'm just on my computer.
I'm Andre Chassé, and I work at Northern Light Health as the Retirement Benefits Manager. In addition to this committee, I am also on the board of Equality Maine. And I was recently appointed volunteer state president for AARP Maine.
Oh, awesome. That's huge. Way to go.
So
That should keep you
I'll be
busy.
busy with that.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you, Andre.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm Julie Davis, and I'm just retired stuff. I used to be on the ethics committee here in the city of Bangor a few years back.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Catherine Robinson. I am the Associate Director for the School of Nursing at UMaine. And so I'm affiliated with UMaine. I'm also affiliated with Jackson Lab. I do some Maine Cancer Genomics Initiative work there. I'm also on the advisory committee for the Area Health Education Network. So been doing some work around the state with some of the things that we need in terms of healthcare needs. And I've been doing a lot of work with nursing workforce initiatives. And I also started, or my department started a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee at the University of Maine. And we've been doing a lot of work with a $2 million grant that we have there. So
Wow.
very happy to be here.
Ooh.
Wouldn't it be nice if we had a $2 million?
In our budget request.
Yeah. Great question.
Versa has a lot of them. Whoever wants to apply for it.
Oh.
Well, thank you, Catherine, and welcome.
We're glad you're here.
I'm Jason Caniff, following the format so far. I'm on a couple of boards. I'm on the board of directors for the Columbia Street project downtown, which is being rebranded. And I'm happy to share that rebranding when it's approved.
Oh, come on.
Just a teaser, just dropping it.
Right?
Yeah, it's very, very, very exciting. Really digging into the history of Bangor. So I'm very excited about sharing that with the city as well. I'm the secretary of Health Equity Alliance, their board of directors, and currently the interim chairman of the board. While they're going through some stuff. And I'm being very diplomatic and filtered. Most of my time is spent as the director of the Peace and Reconciliation Studies program, the UMaine. And then I do some lecturing as well. And I'm a dad, so
Oh,
Great, thank you.
I've got plenty of free time.
Yeah.
As we all do.
I didn't talk about my kids because that's like that thing that you just
yeah.
happens,
I
right?
forgot.
Personal life,
Yes.
Yeah,
relationships.
what's that? Thank you, everyone, for your introductions and sharing a little bit about yourself. Every year, at the start of the year, we do have to elect a chair and vice chair of this committee. I have just finished my term on it. So at this time, if anyone has any questions about, the chair, what it looks like, what that role is, the time commitment associated with that. And then, if there aren't any, we can seek nominations or someone else to self-nominate. That is certainly also acceptable as well. I can tell you right now, as a chair, you're expected to be here for every meeting and to facilitate the meeting as we have here. But then you do meet generally 2 weeks before the meeting with the city manager and your vice chair to develop the agenda and to really try and bring forth any important topics or to help motivate the subcommittees and drive the efforts and the work of this committee, which is just in year 4. I think that's really important to note. This is a committee that has a history of really took a little bit to find its feet and to get somewhere. And I think in the last year, we really have laid some good foundation to really have a solid meeting structure and develop subcommittees to go forward so that we're both proactive and reactive to the needs of the city. So that's just my thought on the role of chair. And I don't know if Katie would like to speak to vice chair.
You sit next to the chair?
That's like my requirement. I want to throw that out there.
I will say that the vice chair position, having served the past year, when you have a great chair that shows up for every meeting, it's quite easy. Obviously the responsibility of leading meetings would fall to you if they were not available, but I will say that a lot of the work that has been done in the past year, considering our annual reports and our calendars and the development of the subcommittees and really outlining what those expectations are, that's been a lot of collaborative work outside of these meetings, in addition to meeting with the city manager for agenda. It doesn't, you don't have to be the note taker if you are the vice chair. I don't know how this happened, but I'm happy to keep.
I know exactly
taking
how it
notes.
happened. When she first started, she's like, yes, I'll take notes. And then last year, someone said they would take it up and then that person did not take it up. So Katie continued her part of it. So, hey, Theron.
Hi, Theron. How was the concert?
Oh, I didn't go to it was a great bus.
Oh, I thought you
Great
did
bus,
the,
great bus with the chorus.
I thought you went to the chorus
Oh, no,
concert.
no,
No
great
excuse,
bus.
no excuse to have a nice house. I know that you're right.
Ah,
So before we continue the conversation about chair and vice chair, we were talking about how it's time to elect a new chair and vice chair. If you want to take a moment to introduce yourself, and we're also asking individuals to talk about any other groups they might be connected to or what brought you to the committee, since we do have some new individuals at the table.
Okay, my name is Theron Littlewell. What brought me here was just want to be a part of something. Part of the events committee. We had something from Martin Luther King last time. I went to a nice event for that.
Mhm.
I'm just glad to be here. I'm a bus driver. That's
There you
why I'm
go.
late. And other than that, everything else is good.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad you can make it as well.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions about the role of chair, vice chair, the commitment required to that? Okay. Are there any nominations for chair? Let me start with that first.
I would make a motion to nominate Leanna Fellis for another term, just given, I think, her excellent leadership. This is the 4th year, And there has been a lot of understanding of what this advisory committee actually does, how we work with the city, how instead of being reactive and waiting for a lot of the pieces to come our way, we can be more proactive in creating these subcommittees and identifying some ways to be really thoughtful about making sure that the city knows about this committee and that we're doing as much as we can to be a present advocate and ally with other city committees. And I think Leona has done a great job the last year really laying the groundwork for that. And I would nominate you for an additional term just to really see through what that could look like in practice when everyone sort of takes on some of the pieces that we've identified.
Thank you. Am I required to accept a nomination?
She did not put it in the
That's
memo.
not in the agenda of what I'm supposed to say, just checking. Thank you very much for the nomination. Is there anyone else who would like to nominate or self-nominate? That certainly is an option as well. Seeing none, I do accept the nomination, and we do have to have a majority voted on that. So do we have to go around one by one? Yes, roll call is required. So for the role of chair, myself as chair, we'll start with Andre over there.
Yay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yay.
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 So we feel right. All right.
So humble.
Yeah. Leanna Fellows is chair for 2024. Thank you so much, everyone. I look forward to working with all of you in this role again. Let's move on to vice chair. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
I think there's no need to break what works. So if Katie is willing to accept a nomination for vice chair, I would nominate Katie for an additional term as vice chair.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you, Andre. Accept.
Any other nominations or self-nominations? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. Andre?
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
Aye.
Yay.
Aye.
And majority vote as Katie Bryden for vice chair for another term. Thank you, everyone. Next on our agenda, we have Grace will be providing our FOA, next FOA training, and that was included in your packet as well. So if you don't have it and you want a copy of it, I'm sure we can get that for you. If not, you can look on. Turn it over to you.
All right, great. So FOA is the Freedom of Access Act. It's a Maine state statute. It was passed by the Maine legislature, and its purpose is that the actions of public bodies be taken openly and that records of a public body be open to public inspection. The idea of FOA is that public proceedings exist to aid in the conduct of the people's business. There are two prongs of FOA. So there's the records and then the public proceedings. So first we'll cover records. So the intent of the state FOA law is that actions and deliberations of the city and its committees be taken openly and that records of actions be open to public inspection. I can tell you guys where in the statute if you want to look it up, but any record that is in the possession of the city of Bangor or any public official involving the business of the city is considered public unless a statutory exception applies. There's a number of statutory exceptions. They're under a bunch of different statutes. So we're not going to go over each of them, but it's safe to assume that any documents or communications created or received by a committee member involving the business of the committee is a public record. Written communications include things like texts, emails, social media posts, and messaging systems, or any other electronic communication regarding city business. And all communications regarding the business or activities of the city should be considered a public record, even if it's on your personal device. It's recommended that you do create a new email address for your position on the committee so that all of the emails regarding the committee will go to that. You should not delete any communications, documents, or notes taken during committee meetings because they may be subject of a Freedom of Access Act request. Finally, you should be aware that the city may request to review your electronic communications involving any business of the committee. So the second prong is public proceedings. So your hearings or meetings are public proceedings, and as such, they must be advertised and open to the public. Staff takes care of the advertising and, you know, setting up these Zoom meetings so they're open to the public. Members of the committee should avoid discussing committee matters outside of the public hearing in order to foster public understanding of the decisions of the committee. Members of the committee should also avoid discussion of substantive matters verbally outside of committee meetings and by email, text, or social media. So I'm going to move on to the code of ethics now. So I just wanted to cover two things. First, I wanted to cover confidential information. So committee members should not disclose confidential information concerning the property, government, or affairs of the city, or use any information to advance your financial, special, or personal interest, or the financial, special, or personal interest of others. So confidential information means information, oral or written, that's available to committee members only because of their position with the city and is not a matter of public record. So this is just like if you're walking down the hall and you hear something, don't disclose it. Social media, so this is kind of a big one right now. Committee members should not be perceived as representing the city in their social media posts. They should either disclose on their social media page or in their posts that they're acting in their personal, private capacity and not as a representative of the city. Committee members should avoid posting about their views on the city, and they should also be careful about discourse on social media. Section 33-7.1, which I have here and I can pass out to you guys. It's just one page. It provides parameters to be followed when using social media while working or during activities related to your work for the public. Its purpose is to offer a way for the public to be able to distinguish between your personal opinions or comments in your official capacity. Section 33-7.1B provides language you should use when using social media so the public knows you're expressing your personal views and not any official view or view of the committee. So that was the end of my training. I know that was kind of quick, but if you guys have any questions right now, you're welcome to ask me. And then also if you just think of anything, please feel free to email me.
I know that this was something that came up previously, at least in previous years, which was what constitutes a gathering, like how many committee members constitutes
Quorum.
Yeah, quorum. And if I remember correctly, it was 3, no.
I think it's 9-member, right? So it'd be 5.
Right, so if there's ever any subcommittee, so we have subcommittee group, if any of these become, like I know at one point we had discussed that we were gonna create a new subcommittee, and I believe there was a lot of interest on that. If it gets to be 5 people, that is something that has to become, we have to create a public notice for, and the meeting has to be held in a location. So I think these are things that we have to be mindful of when we're like looking at subcommittees and in our meetings. Additionally, and it does sound like, you know, I'd like to point out is any communication between committee members for subcommittee work that might not include a city official on it still counts as part of documents that could be requested. So I just bear that in mind when you're communicating with each other within your subcommittees, you know, when you're discussing, you know, getting together to discuss things or gathering information or anything like that. That's all things that could be requested. Do I have that right?
Yep. And it's 5 or less,
No, it would, yeah,
but we need to keep it.
Yeah.
4 or less
Or
to avoid a quorum.
got it.
Because
Thank
as soon
you.
as you have a quorum, it needs to be a publicly noticed and available meeting.
Got it. Thank you.
Did a nice job.
Year 4, I'm finally getting it. And this is gonna be a really weird question, I feel like, but it's something that I think about, you know, when we're talking about social media and how we discourse that we engage in, you know, we do talk about Twitter and things like that.
Right.
Could things post that you like or reshare be part of that, could be construed in a way?
That is a tough question.
How do you
I don't-
distinguish between that, I guess is the question.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you other than, so in this, 33-7.1D, it gives you, it says, the views I express on this site are my own and do not reflect any view or position of the city of Bangor. The only thing I can give you right now is maybe putting that in like your bio or something on social media to just kind of have that there in case you do like something or something like that, but I can look further into it and get back to you. I don't have like a straight answer right now.
No, I think that's helpful, noting that as
Yeah.
something to put out there. I'm not sure how everyone else uses their social media, but it's, I think, an easy area for someone to just go in and look at someone's history.
Right, definitely.
My experience with committees of this sort and then the particular kind of work that we're doing is that it's often politically charged.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us would argue that we don't have some political bias, in the work that we do. I'm wondering, and probably my own ignorance, does this mean that like, I must be less vocal online about the things that I align myself with? Or like, I guess I'm looking for a bit of guidance on like how to stay above board.
Yeah.
This is new territory for me.
No.
I usually say what I want to say.
Yeah, and like our intent with this part of the ordinances is just that you make it clear that your views are your own. So that, you know, if you do share something, it's not construed as something that the city of Bangor is saying or doing, but I don't think that that means that you have to then like limit what you do, because, you know, we all have our own views and that's okay, but you just need to make it clear that that's not the views of the city of
I
Bangor
think
necessarily.
practically speaking, unless you're actually speaking about something to do with the city in general, most people aren't going to connect what you're doing with the city anyway in your capacity on this committee.
Yeah.
If, for example, you came into a city council meeting, I think it would be really important for you to disclose that you were acting in your personal capacity and not as a speaker or representative of this committee, for example. But in general, as Grace pointed out, our intent is just to make sure that, you know, if you feel like you're crossing a line, or you're speaking on a topic that has to do with city business or committee business, that you are clear that you are speaking in your own personal capacity and not as a representative of this committee.
Well, thank you for referencing that, Courtney, because that did come up previously. We've had committee members go to city council and do like some educational pieces, and, you know, it was decided that when we're doing that, we say we're coming from the advisory committee, but if you're coming to talk on your own, that you say, I'm acting in my own personal capacity, not in, you know, and that was kind of made clear to us to ensure that we weren't crossing. Yes. Areas.
Thank you.
We know you're very diplomatic.
And I think I just have one last question. It seems like this is the first time I've heard a reference to creating a separate email. Is
Yeah,
that,
me too. That piqued my interest too.
is that a new recommendation that's coming out of the city of Bangor?
Kind of, so this is, I can't speak for like past assistant city solicitors, but I just kind of developed this training by pulling from a bunch of different
Sure.
things.
Yeah.
And that kind of sounded like a good idea, just because, you know, you never know when you're gonna get forward and you don't want something that's in your personal email, like
Sure.
you don't want that crossover. So that was kind of what we decided would be
It's
advisable.
the cleanest, I guess, in
Yes.
terms of keeping things separate. And then, as she said, if you're at Repoed, you're not sorting between committee business and personal business, but it's not a requirement.
Right, yeah, and so it's just a suggestion. I know other boards and stuff get like Bangor city emails, so for them, like obviously one gets created for them, but for you guys, just creating your own kind of just helps keep everything separate, and that's just for your own personal gain, but that's up to you.
Yeah, it's a recommendation.
Any other questions for Grace? Unless we ask her back, this is the last time you'll see her this year.
Aw.
Well, for us.
If you guys think of anything, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I will answer in emails or phone calls.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Grace. That was great.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Right. Next item on our agenda is a review of the committee overview document, and this particular document. This particular document is something that was created, was it 2 years ago now? It must be 2 years ago now. As a way to help new committee members learn about the committee, the work that has happened leading up to this point, why the committee was created, the actual ordinance itself. We've also included copies of previous, year-end reports, kind of a quick version of the work we've done. So we really hope that, that it's been useful to you, to look at, to see where we started and where we are. Were there any questions about, any of the information contained in here? Anything that you wanted to learn more about, anything in that context?
The only thing that I would do is I just would highlight, what I found very useful as a new member of the committee is the sections on the committee mission and the committee goals. And, really keeping those in the forefront of our minds as we have these meetings on what it is that we're being asked to do. Sometimes we can get tangented off in areas where, let's put on a show. Like, well, that's not really in the charter. So.
Bringing it back.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andre. I absolutely 100% agree, which is, always trying to, understanding why this committee was formed is important, but why we're doing and the reasons why we're doing it and how we can continually improve upon what we're doing and be effective in the work that we're doing. So going back to those missions and those goals really helps us align with being able to do the work, because this kind of work doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time, and you have to kind of keep your eyes on the goal. Where are we trying to go? What are we trying to do? How are we trying to help the city? So for those of you who were wondering where that is in here, it's under the charter section. So when you look at the history of the committee, next is the charter, where it talks about the different chairs, terms of office, and then it breaks into the mission and the goals. I will say one of the things that's in here, it says the committee shall meet at least quarterly. That first year, we realized pretty quickly the quarterly was not nearly enough for the work that we wanted to do. And we just slowly moved into meeting monthly, and it has stayed that way ever since. So that language actually hasn't been changed in the charter. We haven't really seen a need to, because we are flexible. As a committee, if we feel that, yeah, we've met all our goals and should only meet quarterly, that is certainly something this committee can do. But we've kind of unanimously agreed over time that it is something that requires more intensive work.
Right. And we do occasionally skip meetings.
Yeah.
And so,
It's
if
always fall like July.
imagine that.
Imagine that.
I know, that's weird.
I mean,
May I ask a clarifying question, Andre? Are you saying that was your note simply as this is helpful for new members, or do you think we should move the mission and sort of charter information to the very top?
No, I just
Okay.
think it's helpful to highlight. I mean, I found this information helpful for me as a committee member to sort of focus on what,
Okay,
what the committee does.
yeah,
And what I can bring to the committee
yeah,
in terms of, my experience and
Yeah.
talents and whatnot. But,
thank you.
but it also, because we had like very, very lengthy discussions about this, right?
Yeah.
In
That's why I was like,
in
you
some
don't
of our
make me change
meetings.
it, like,
And, if we feel like, some of these things are like, well, we don't really do this and, I don't foresee us doing this, then, maybe we take steps to amend the charter.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
or whatnot,
Yeah.
but there's also things here that's like, maybe remind us to say, oh, well, this is in the charter, we haven't really talked about this, or we haven't really done anything with this, but I think it's really important. I think as a point for us to sort of circle back on every time there's like, we sort of stray away.
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
what it is. that
yeah,
we're
that's
doing.
super helpful. Thank you.
And really, when we look at the goals of the committee, you'll see that the goals align with our subcommittees, okay? And we'll get to the subcommittees momentarily, but that derived from these lengthy conversations that this committee had in those first several years, feeling like we were just being reactive to the needs of the city when we all felt very passionately about well, we want to be able to put things forward. We want to be able to address things that we see coming up. And so it took us a while to figure out that balance of what that would look like. And we decided that subcommittees that directly tied back to these goals that are in here was the best mechanism for that. So you'll often hear me talk about striking the balance of proactive and reactive. In our agenda, the structure of it has been specifically set up so that we can be flexible to the city's needs, whether it be council sending something our way, economic development, Parks and Rec. You know, we have place in our agenda for that, but then as you can see, we will always have the subcommittee working groups carved out in there. And we, the last several months have really just worked on, you know, helping or pushing the idea of empowering these subcommittees to, you know, to go out and see the things and pull the work in and bring it forth and bring it up. It doesn't have to come from the chair or the vice chair or city council. If there are things that in your organization that you belong in, that you're hearing and you're seeing and is interesting or is impacting a population, we want to be able to address those and be proactive. And so that's kind of how we're trying to strike that balance in this particular committee. So we really, when I became chair last year, for me, it was very much trying to establish a groundwork, a template, so that whomever comes in next has something to work with, that they're not trying to reinvent the wheel all the time. And yes, this document is a living, breathing document, which should be reviewed and adjusted as need be, but that it's not the months of long conversations that we had previously of who are we, what are we, you know, and that back and forth. So that's a little bit about, you know, how we're using the goals in here, you know, in our meetings and how we came to have this particular structure for our meetings. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, thanks.
And this also does talk about just the general work of the committee in that, you know, how we operate our meetings. It does talk a little bit more about, it actually came up earlier, term lengths for each person. You receive letters that talk about term lengths. And
May or may not be accurate. Go with it.
Also in here is, Katie and I last year undertook the effort of creating an annual calendar of topics and goals. And one of the reasons why we did this is because we would like to the extent that we can identify things early that allow subcommittees to address things, or who want to make recommendations up to city council, or if there's additional work that we could tag into, you know, we want to be able to get ahead of that. It also provides us an opportunity to know what's going to be coming through for this committee, or anything coming up like budget requests, you know, any of these are the things that come through. So this is an example of last year's calendar. Some of the things will stay the same on there, but there might be other things that come through and we rely on the city manager to tell us, you know. I think some of the things that came through last year, like the tenant bill of rights that came through, you know, last year, website, you know, we knew that the city.
RFP was accepted, right?
Yeah, all these things. So we try to get those sort of things on here as early as we can. So we expect this to get updated as well. So if there's other things that you know that you would like to get on the calendar, we are always happy to put that on there as well. Because it's not our committee, it's our committee, right? So always open to anything coming up to us. We've also included the previous annual reports, and at some point here, we will be discussing the next one. So I do know that was included in there. But that's just a brief overview of our onboarding document. Was there any discussion or questions about the document or anything? Hopefully you guys have found it helpful. No. Was it fine? Am I taking over this? Okay, so I think we've covered everything we need to, in terms of a new committee year. We're going to move on to number 2, which is the approval of meeting minutes from November 28th and December 28th. Can I get a, what was that?
I move we accept minutes as printed.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Were there any changes or adjustments that need to be made to the minute?
Everyone's name is spelled right?
Abbreviations are correct. All right. Seeing none, meeting minutes are approved.
Right?
Okay. Normally in the agenda, if we had an educational topic where we might bring someone in, I think next term it might be Parks and Rec might be coming in, I think. right?
Yeah.
Actually, I
that's-
think Kara's coming in next month.
think they're both gonna be, might be
Oh,
in
okay.
presentations from both,
Yeah.
actually.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon that we might not have something in there. We kind of, again, that ability to address things as they're coming through and everything. So we have nothing for this month, knowing that we have housekeeping that we were going to be working through. Same with policy. This would be, a time in which maybe city council might have something, or another department in the city of Bangor that they want us to look at. And oftentimes, when that is brought to us, it's never just a small document. It's usually a large document. We look for it, at it from language, populations, everything. And usually we offer up suggestions or changes, that we would like to see made. So that might be an example, these would be examples of things that you would see, thrown in under the policy section. Does anyone have any questions about education and policy as individual?
Can I just add that if there are things in your own lives that either are happening, like opportunities to apply for grants for millions of dollars, that would be helpful to introduce to the group, this would be the time just to put it on the agenda to be able to share that, because I know that everybody's doing so much good work in their lives.
Yeah.
So if there's ways that we can, it's not always going to be that we're inviting someone to speak. It's oftentimes members of our own committee that are giving updates on either our professional or other professional relationships that we're involved in, boards or volunteer positions. That's actually super helpful to our committee to sort of see what that connection is and how we can get further involved. So totally welcome that opportunity.
An example of that, one of our committee members, Melissa Buckles, she is involved with Catholic Charities in Maine, specifically, the refugee settlement. And she gave us an update recently to the fact that we now can take up to 100, telling us how we could assist, things that they're looking for. And has been a really great resource to learn more about that effort that's happening here in the area. So that's just an example of some of the committee, within our own committee, some of the things that we might hear about.
It did bring to mind, just as I just want to throw it out there, the Hike for the Homeless is coming up for, the Bangor area homeless shelter. Their big fundraising event in the spring and be in April. I did bring it up to my AARP leadership to see if they wanted to be a sponsor
Okay.
and get together a team.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking this committee might be an opportunity if committee members wanted to get like a team together.
Yeah, I
Not
like
necessarily sponsor, but get a team together to
Personally
participate
raise
at the
funds, yeah.
Hike for the Homeless. I think it's like $25 a person or something like that.
That's awesome.
And also, and
Thank you.
if you could provide us with, or we can probably look up to see who it is, if they're doing tabling opportunities, this might be another opportunity like we had at Pride, where we could have a table or something.
I don't know that they have, they are looking for sponsors, which might be in like a program or their online communications, but I don't
Yeah.
think they're doing like
Not doing
vendor
virtual
tables or
tabling.
anything
Okay.
like that. I don't think so. I didn't see that, but you can certainly go to on their website and check and see if that's possible.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Anything else anyone would like to ask about that? Okay. So number 5 on the agenda is our subcommittee working groups. For you, Catherine, these are subcommittees, as I mentioned, that tie back to the goals. And some people have already indicated their interest. So if there's an area that you are particularly interested in, we can get you on one of those committees. No problem, super fast.
There's openings available.
They include accessibility, community events, education, human resources, housing. And then this holiday schedule, I think eventually can come off here, because we've attended to that work for the most part. So it's really the top 4 have been the standing committees that relate to the goals. And as I had mentioned, the thought is that these are the working groups where you can come together in your shared interest and start working on things, whether it be So for example, events and education, one of the things they were looking at was, are there any MLK Day events that we could tie onto or send to City of Bangor to help promote, or if there are events that we want to put on or help sponsor or coordinate with other committees in Bangor. Another example last year was we had a table at Pride. And that, we had slips of paper that people could fill out, put information on. So the idea is that this is a way to be proactive, get out in the community, attend to these areas. That we don't have to wait for things. Housing, there's a strong interest in housing. So what is, that's not just our unhoused population, but what about affordable housing? What are we offering for middle income and, individuals and families? So some of the individuals in those, in that subcommittee are, listening to other committees in their meetings, and taking away some of the information, like they're learning about this, community development block grant or some of the proposed, housing projects that are going up. So there's a lot of different ways in which committee members in these subcommittees are attending to these different things. But the thought is that it's not us, as chair and vice chair telling you what to do so much, but hopefully it's more organic within your group. So it does require you to communicate with each other, bearing in mind what we heard tonight about our email communication and meeting and things like that. So that is just an overview. And one of the things I think that might be helpful for you as a committee is maybe using that calendar, looking at those dates that were created, see if there's any specific holidays of significance coming up that we might want to tie events to. Or if there's anything specifically that Bangor maybe hasn't really had done work with in the past that we might be able to help facilitate, some sort of event or help promote, help me here, fill in some of the blanks. You're not helping.
Well, I just feel like the biggest thing to keep in mind with these subcommittees is that historically, this committee has been the one to sort of approve what the city council is working on. And there was a really great interest in people doing more than just reviewing documents and giving feedback. And so this is the opportunity. It really varies. For instance, accessibility doesn't just mean, going on the walking tour and, maybe identifying that walking isn't the way that people move around the city truly in different accessible ways. It also means like reviewing the website, making sure that there are multiple languages available, what that might look like as we're expanding, especially with our new city hall, what's available in terms of like signage and accessibility. So I think the subcommittees are really exciting because there isn't a roadmap. And it's really an opportunity to see like, oh, I joined this committee because I had this very specific goal in mind and it's not quite fitting into what this committee is doing yet. So this is how I make it happen.
Yep. She's much more capable than me.
Right, and the other aspect of the subcommittees is that, as a group, during our limited time at these meetings, we can't cover everything
Yes.
in gory detail. So, the work of the subcommittees can bring then to the committee, the greater committee, sort of a summary of the work that they've been doing. And, the committee can cheer that on or.
Yes, exactly. You got this. Go.
You go.
Have all your meetings. That's how it is.
I think a really excellent example of that flexibility associated with this was last month's meeting. We looked at an equity index and a lot of attention and interest was garnered by that. And I was actually just going through to make sure there's only 4 people who are interested in it. That's great. That's under the 5. That's awesome. But when I looked at that, I saw a great opportunity I'm thinking immediately website. There's this information that's out there about the city of Bangor based on these criteria. How can we use this thing in a greater context, right? How can we use it to both promote, but also show where we can do better? So that equity index, like I see a lot of opportunity, but it came organically from everyone here saying, we want to look at this.
That was my thought too, was that, just zooming out, it's not necessarily just the human rights campaign, but I think that was sort of like, that's the leaves. If you zoom out to the branches and the trees, really the tree is like, public perception of the city of Bangor's online, branding and marketing communication materials, right? Something
Yeah.
along those lines, right? And so, why are we interested in the Human Rights Index, an equity index? Because it either makes the city look good or makes the city look less than ideal, right? And so I think, and I haven't quite thought that all the way through, but I think there's a connection there that maybe the charge of this subcommittee, which I'd be happy to, of course, participate in on some level, maybe the charge of that is to figure out like, what's that bigger sort of picture? And that would really excite me, sort of like around branding and identity, personality, things of that sort. That could be interesting to kind of lean into.
And I think that's the exciting part about these subcommittee working groups, is that freedom is within the group, and the hope is that you're bringing that back, that we are hearing from you in the meeting saying, yep, we, as the Human Rights Equity Index Committee, we have been sitting down, we've been digging through these questions, trying to get to the heart of it, so what are we not saying about Bangor that we want to say about Bangor? And knowing that the website is going through some things and will be.
It is, our website is currently grossly outdated, as I'm sure you all know. And we just kicked off a process to actually fully replace it, with a much more user-friendly experience that will have better accessibility. And options as well. It is a lengthy process. There's a lot of content on the website. So actually, I'm happy to come back with an update once we get a little further along in the process, and potentially ask for some feedback as well in terms of what we should be looking at.
Are you the lead on that? Are you the
Yes.
only person on?
I'm not the only person, but I do have some help. Our public engagement specialist, and our comms person will help a lot. They're both relatively new, and a website, as you know, has all sorts of information about all sorts of different topics and departments and committees. And so I'm kind of that big picture sort of point person. And I also happen to have redone a website before, so I have that going for me too.
So are you familiar with the equity index that we're talking about?
I am, yes, yeah.
So we
It is.
just thought that's a really, that was one of the things the subcommittee was gonna dig deeper into, is like, where were they actually pulling their data from? But if they're pulling it only from the webpage, what's that saying
Yeah,
about Bangor? And how can we apply that to a bigger, what is it we actually wanna say?
yeah, absolutely.
Especially from this framework, this context of racial equity, inclusion, and human rights.
I will say, that, and I can screen share this, but, I just recently updated the website just to make sure it was there, and how do I request accessibility and accommodations? So let me just screen share so that folks at home later can see. I just added this page. It allows, make sure people know that they can request accommodations and what that looks like, and they can also, file complaints and appeals as well. So all that information is laid out for them now.
Where was it previously?
It wasn't there previously, but now it is. And look, it's me.
You are.
That may-
You're also the ADA coordinator. You didn't say that in your intro.
I have a lot of things. I also oversee the community connector. But yeah,
So they
so
pay the big bucks for, right?
this is really important information though.
Yeah, it is.
And so it wasn't something that we wanted to wait until the new website was up before it was accessible. And so I think it's important for this committee to be aware that it is
Thank
there.
you.
And we have gotten actually a few as well, requests. So, it's being utilized, which is great. Traditionally, I think in the past, we didn't have like a formal page, and, I wasn't, considered the formal ADA coordinator, but as a city, we have had a history of working with folks to figure out what we can do to meet their
Yes.
needs. And now there's just a much more formal process, to make sure that, the person that is, looking at potential accommodations to ensure access to our services and programs and things, is done in a fair and equitable way, and to the extent possible. It's not, this department over here might bend over backwards, but maybe not this one. Now there's a central location to make sure that we are, really kind of exploring all the possibilities and ensuring, that accessibility.
Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you for the update.
Yeah.
That's really-
And I know with the University of Maine, like even my department's, website and pages, there's so many of them, and it's a
Mhm.
relatively small program.
Mm.
And it's sort of like Frankenstein together, even with a comms director in the College of Education, it's still kind of Frankenstein together. And so one of the, not the issues, but something that's very noticeable to someone, let's say, surveying the program to see if they want to go to it, is that it's going to look like and feel like there's a different voice at different points along, let's say, the ecosystem of the department.
Mhm.
And we have had some feedback that it's sometimes it's a bit of causes confusion, or it's a bit of a turnoff, or this one sounds like it's very like informal and direct, and here it sounds a bit more kind of free form or whatever. I'm just wondering, is that something that the city of Bangor is thinking about when it comes to the sort of the reconstitution of the website? Like, is there a consistent tone or a voice or a persona that is being expressed? Because I think that sometimes that qualitative, that I think it's harder to measure. That's as important as like an equity index.
Mhm.
Because if we're thinking about like who wants to come to Bangor, who wants to visit, who wants to move here, right? Like where are they getting these multiple kind of points, these impressions, right? And it's something that I haven't figured out how to do on my end. So like it's a problem that I'm interested in, but it seems like your Frankenstein is a lot bigger. It's a very, very big Frankenstein.
I also think it's a little different. You know, we kind of have two different avenues, if you will. There's the website and then there's our social media. And then, of course, within our social media, there's the different departments. Everybody's very familiar, for example, with Tim Cotton at PD. That's not anything that we can really take over. He has a very distinctive voice, a lot of followers. But as far as City Hall goes, with a new communications manager and public engagement specialist, I think they're starting to find that voice in terms of what's being shared and how it's being shared through our social media. But we are also a government, so we have to be careful in terms of what we're sharing and why.
Yeah.
We also are limited in terms of, you know, it has to be kind of specific to what we're doing or what our committees are doing. We're not, unfortunately, you know, the university or nonprofit, for example, might share outside information from other entities and things, and we have to be a little more restrictive related to that. Because again, we're government, so as soon as we open up our social media to be what's called a public forum, you know, we just can't control it anymore. So there are additional considerations that we have to take into account. With the website specifically, I think our goal is kind of simple in terms of making sure that the information that people are looking for is readily accessible and easy to understand. I don't know if we've really had conversations about a voice per se, but we want it to be easy to find, easy to use, easy to navigate. And just simple. We always aim for things like, you know, 8th grade reading level and things of that nature to ensure as much accessibility as possible. But yeah, those are great points.
Yeah, and just to build on that, I think. I think those are all great for it to be accessible, to be, you know, in plain language.
Yeah.
But I think it would be nice, and it's kind of like you said, it's a bit of an esoteric thing, but. To find a way for it to be welcoming and also very city positive.
Yes, I do think that that's actually something that's kind of been missing from our social media, for example, for a long time. We've kind of just stuck straight with the information, like,
Yeah,
and you might have noticed that we do more like highlights and more positive news.
yeah,
Cause we're trying to be more welcoming and whatnot. I think it's a little harder with the website, but I love that feedback. I think that that's really
Yeah.
important.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that we can do, because those of us who are on this committee love the city of Bangor. And I want people to know how wonderful Bangor is.
And want
And
people
so,
who are moving
yeah.
here to say like, oh, this is where I can find the other languages that I speak, to know that the
Mhm.
city welcomes me for this reason, or.
Yeah,
I would also extend an invitation that if you, as a committee, are doing important work and want to share information, please reach out to me and we can facilitate that. Because as a committee of the city of Bangor, that is something that we can do.
Awesome.
I think one of the things I'm hearing, also hear you saying is that no matter what page someone lands on, it sounds like the same. It doesn't go from like, ooh, super, super technical to maybe, you know, so that it kind of sounds like you're talking to the same person, you're reading the same thing from. So it's, I'm not saying this all lands on you, I'm saying, but it's as if the same person used the same voice on every page, right? Like, we tasked one person with writing all the words on this so that it is the same voice across the board. And I love City Positive.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And, you know, maybe, I'm not sure how you can incorporate that.
I don't know either. I mean, I'm not a marketing person, I'm not a branding person, but I know that
Bengal
there,
crowd.
you know, a lot of because Northern Light Health is still fairly new from Eastern Maine Healthcare Systems. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, it was a very, very successful brand launch. People have really responded well to the new Northern Light Health.
Mhm.
And when I do go to the website,
Yeah.
you know,
Like that's
the
how
language
we
that
do,
they
yeah.
use, and even though it's, you know, it may be dry information, you know, the colors that they use, the language that they use, it's all very comfortable, it's very welcoming, it's, you know, it's almost intangible kind of a
Yeah.
thing, you know?
It's just, and not to go on too much of a tangent here, but like, I think we're onto something that we can pick up over the course of the year. Like, there's some benchmarks for this in Maine, like there's other cities in Maine that, their problems are not super distinct from the ones that we have. Places
Right.
like Biddeford and Waterville
Mhm.
and Skowhegan. In some of these areas, like I think it's the Skowhegan area, that's got a big grant, big money to then create like a whole kind of rebranding or sort of like a marketing campaign to draw more tourism and more businesses in the area. And even like Biddeford, for example, like and in that section of Maine, there are the same problems that are here, but then somehow they have changed the tone to where, or control the narrative a bit more to where when people think about that, they go, oh, it's the new foodie town, it's the new this. And so it could be that Bangor, there's sort of like, there's that little, it's like a meme in a way. And that's the thing that people will fixate onto. And so, cause people simplify things and they'll fixate on that one thing. And that might be an opportunity for this committee to then intersect with this building. So maybe part of that could be related to equity, inclusion, diversity. Like, this is the place for that, something along those
Yeah.
lines, as opposed to thinking about like, oh, the homeless or something, right? Which, yes, but also this, and maybe more so this. I
Yeah.
don't know.
When I was growing up, I remember, and I don't know, maybe it's not as long ago as I remember, but the tagline for Bangor was the heart of everything,
Wow.
was a sort of like a branding.
Yeah,
And I always loved that, and I remember it.
yeah. I
Oh,
did
wow.
not remember that.
Nice.
That's really nice.
To circle back to the subcommittee part with that equity and that's kind of where my mind is going, which is when we're talking about knowing that a website launch takes a long time and we're thoughtful on that. And this equity index isn't something that happens in one session, one group meeting either, but it's that opportunity to, again, that idea of how are we talking about Bangor? What are we putting out there? And it's also time for us to reflect as a committee, okay,
Yeah.
what can we be doing better? Where are we falling short, you know, and we know, you know, but there's always room for improvement. And how are we, you know, how can we help with that? And I think this is just an opportunity, this can lead into that work that's happening too.
Yeah.
Like, I think these things can happen together. And just, that was just my thought, and this committee is at 4. If we go one more, it'll have to be publicized meeting. Just as a, you know, and we can check in with some of the other committee members, you know, to see their commitment to it. But again, feel free as a committee, subcommittee to.
But are there ways too that we could split it too with subcommittee work?
Maybe.
Like if there is, you know, the equity index and sort of looking at our online presence, and then there is the accessibility committee working on, you know, ways that we can be a more accessible city, you know, because I think that especially as we continue to grow as a refugee resettlement space, I think that being seen as a place that not only is welcoming because, that's how the funding landed, but because we have the resources and the interests and the welcoming, opportunities for new families, I think that would be really great to build on. So I think that there's a way too that those committees could almost work in tandem, based on where you're at in the overhaul and how we can really address it. But I think obviously starting with when we are looking at the big picture of what the presence looks like by the subcommittee that's really focusing on the equity index, what are we picking out that can be identified, and then how do we apply that?
Yeah.
To,
I think this is just
changes.
the start that spurs into other subcommittee work that can help.
Like, would it be, would it be out of the question for, say, someone from that, that subcommittee, that working group to then, be part of the meetings on the city's end? Like, in terms of like that meeting with the communications people who are thinking about the editing and
Even colors
process.
or,
I've got a background in branding and marketing, and these things, it's usually gonna be a product of the individuals in the room, right?
You just gotta schedule time with Courtney.
We can definitely check in. I'll be honest, like full on participation, it's just too much. It would slow the process down like dramatically. But yeah, absolutely. We could have touch points and feedback and input and all sorts of opportunities for that.
Well, maybe the starting point would be like, what's the transparency, what that process looks like, right? Is it a multi-phase, multi-month process with like milestones and stuff
Yeah,
like
so
that?
I've just kicked off. I have
Yeah.
a million other things on my plate, so it's like being fit in when I have time.
Okay,
And again, our comms person is like brand new, so we have a lot of new people in a lot of new positions, and I say this selfishly a little bit, like, a little anxiety, because like, it's a lot, but I definitely would like to participate in this group, in the subcommittee, and get feedback and input. I'm not sure to what degree is realistic. But that doesn't mean that we can't have touch points and conversations throughout the process.
yeah.
Why doesn't this subcommittee, it sounds like, Jason, you're willing to take an initial lead on the start of this. Why don't you start with this, start that initial analysis of the equity index, see where that kind of takes you, have a couple of different, meetings where you get together, see where that goes, and then maybe, swing back through to Courtney and just kind of things that you've noticed and discovered. I think that seems like a good starting point for that, because who knows what this actually uncovers? Because I think part of it was, where are they actually getting their information from? And that's a key part of
might
that
be a lot bigger.
conversation. And then by that time, you might be a little
I'll
further.
have
in
more
your-
idea on the timeline and stuff as well by then too.
Would it be realistic that if the subcommittees had feedback just as a report out, of, this is what we see, this is what we recommend? So
Oh,
just
yeah.
obviously, Debbie could fill you in,
What
Yeah.
about Courtney come into?
or you could just.
Be on the
stay for
agenda.
all of
Yeah,
them.
if it's on the agenda. Yeah, I mean, if coming to these meetings is a good touch point, I'm happy to do that, but can also have one-on-one conversations too.
Yeah.
During,
Yeah,
normal hours.
I think get your footing about you for this subcommittee. Do some initial research and data gathering, and then maybe try to start to formulate what you think that might look like in terms of what you might recommend to Courtney. And maybe Courtney, by that time, I don't know if you guys have created like your fingers crossed launch date or something like that, but how you might, in those.
Like
one-on-one-
summer.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah,
like,
it's like a
It's very soon.
it's ideally like a 6-month process, and we just kicked it off. But realistically, it's probably 9 if I had to guess.
so I think the more that you can
Yeah.
bring to the table to Courtney.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
the sooner I have feedback about like, this is what we're seeing on the website, and like based on the recommended direction of where we're going, we recommend doing X, Y, and Z, the more helpful that is.
That
For sure.
sounds like a good, well,
Yep.
only a few people. You're the only one here from the committee, subcommittee tonight. So I will trust you to reach out to the other committee members about that and go for it. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Anyone want to, for those who aren't on a committee that want to be on a committee or change their committee assignments, if you want to email myself and Debbie, just so we know, that would be great, so that we can make any adjustments to our agenda. And if there's anything else that comes up in the meantime, if there's another committee idea that you're thinking about, or a specific thing you would like to address, email Katie and myself and Debbie, and we're happy to discuss all of that. And everything's, I think, kind of fair play. Because, I haven't said this before. Well, maybe I have. I think Bangor is the right size city with the right mix of people that we really can take that next step. I think we're right there, and we're really starting to make those changes, and they're starting to happen. And if we look at what's happening in the country right now, in particular, when we look at DEI work and how some places are now stripping back their funding
Yep.
and they're canceling groups, I think it's super important that we really are paying attention to that and just progressing forward. I just think Bangor is right for that. And, that's why I believe so much in this committee and the work that we're doing and why I want to empower all of you. That's why I say everything's fair play, because we really have so much that we can do and bring forth. And so many things that people just don't know about. And I want to make sure people know about our committee as well. That's the other thing we
Yeah.
learned from doing the Pride table last summer. People don't know who we are. That's the other thing. So how can we make sure that we're getting to the other committees and the other organizations and that we're leveraging those opportunities as much as we possibly can? And that can happen in those subcommittees as well. All right. Great discussion on the subcommittees. Thank you, everyone. Number 6 on our agenda is a report on, the review of the draft annual report. We had it on last meeting, but we tabled it so everyone could review it and see if there's anything that we wanted to add or change to it before we give the actual report to government ops. Next
I
one.
think it's terrific. I wouldn't change a word. You guys did a terrific job.
Who will be attending that meeting?
Myself and Katie. Okay. Why?
Just, if Debbie doesn't, cause that's my committee, so, usually, the week before, we have an idea of like the order of things, and I can give you a heads up about, where the third committee of the night and, just
Okay.
basics information, but
That's
or where
February
you are
5th.
on the agenda, what to expect, things like that.
I have to tell you, I learned, when I did the report last year, I learned a great deal. The tax assessor went before me, and my goodness, our people, our committee members who are on the housing, I learned so much just by listening.
The government
the-
ops meeting or?
Yeah, the government ops meeting, because they were talking about, obviously tax rates and everything, but where would housing prices be? We're coming out of the pandemic. Are they still gonna be high? What do they predict long-term? How many homes are on the market? And I just found that I would have
Yeah.
expected that in the report out meeting. So if anyone's looking to listen to a meeting in your spare time, the annual reports one was, I found that super interesting and an unexpected learning opportunity. So for anyone who wants to listen to that. Were there any other comments, questions, alterations that anyone felt that need to be made to the annual report?
Do you want a motion? I don't think we need a
We need a
motion.
motion. I don't think
I don't
so.
think so. Yeah, as long as there are no edits, then we'll present it.
And then that annual report will get included in the onboarding packet for all future committee members. And you're also welcome to listen to that if you want to. What does it say? The
February
5th?
5th.
The fifth,
Better
yeah,
make
it's a
sure.
Monday.
And one of those, is it 7 o'clock?
No, so committees start at 5:15 and they're usually staffed.
Got
So I could be the second committee, I could be the fourth.
That's what you were saying. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda, are any ordinances that would need to be discussed? None this month, but again, we leave it flexible in case something does come through that we need to review. This is other business meeting schedule. I don't know that I remember what that actually pertains to.
Are you guys happy with this meeting schedule, I would assume? The second, or what is it, the fourth Tuesday of the month?
The third Tuesday of the month.
Right, fourth Tuesday?
It's
Yeah, 'cause
the
you followed
Tuesday after
Well,
the.
The city council meeting,
Yeah.
and the second city council meeting is always the fourth Monday of every month.
Right, but sometimes the fourth Tuesday doesn't follow the fourth Monday.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
So it's
Very
the
good point.
Tuesday after the fourth Monday.
After the second council meeting of the
Yeah,
month.
Tuesday after the fourth Monday.
Just wait for the email
Calendar-
reminder.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think calendar might went out. Is
I
that
know at
correct?
least this month did. I don't
Yeah.
know if it went out for
I
the
think
rest of
we'll
them. though.
continue to do
Yeah.
that though.
Did you get one?
For this meeting, but no.
No,
others.
okay.
Do you
okay.
want a bunch at once, or is it better to do it month by month?
I prefer as spread out as possible.
Is that
Agreed.
good? Okay,
Agreed.
yeah, we can do that.
I think that's helpful, especially given the number of people who, couldn't attend tonight.
Yeah, get it on the calendars
Yep.
early.
Yep.
Sure.
But the time still works for everyone as well, now that we have the new committee members, 6 p.m. works. That's great, we will stick with that then as well. I think this was just for review purposes. I
Okay.
don't think that was
Well,
actually
okay.
the meeting schedule. We just wanted to jump back super quick onto the subcommittee work. We did provide Debbie with, a copy of significant holidays or
Cultural significance.
as it also relates to city meetings as well. And so that's what this,
That's what I thought
document.
meeting schedule was.
It could be.
Was just to confirm that these are all the days in which every month there is either work exemption for religious or culturally significant days to ensure that every meeting or subcommittee meeting that the city is scheduling doesn't conflict with any of these holidays, so that no one should be required to miss anything pertinent to the way that they practice religion, culture, personal time. And so this is a super high level review. And I'm confident there are things missing. We took what Andre shared from Northern Light and the days of cultural significance in addition to
Our own calendar.
yes, some additional work. So it should be a good snapshot, but obviously.
So the hope was that it, not just guides our committee, but any city
Mm.
work, any city committees, there's some culturally significant days where the actual holiday itself is one day, but there's a work restricted holiday that's later in the week. So making
Right.
sure I'm mindful of those sort of
Yeah.
instances
Yeah.
as well. So that's what the creation of this document was.
So I strongly encourage if there, are things that are missed on here, that you either know about personally or are aware of, then this will always be an opportunity to continue to add on. And also, all of these documents actually do live on a Google Drive. Is that allowed?
That's a
I mean,
question.
Nice. Come
Does
back.
Debbie have access to it?
Mhm.
Yeah, then we can
Okay.
turn that over if it was ever forward.
Okay, because that is where, again, I welcome people to go in and make those changes if there's something missing. Because we do want this to be a resource to every committee, and working group in the city.
We're gonna go on to number 9 now, which, manager updates. It says rescheduling update of school DEIB committee work, and I think that's because initially we were supposed to have someone last time, but, I think she was sick, couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the question is, when can they come in again?
I can find out.
Is there potentially any other manager updates or anything else that's happening? Anything happening?
Yes. Yeah, we are the website, accessibility. I just announced last night at city council that we are looking at our overall personnel rules and regulations as a city. Very lengthy process, a lot of new laws and things of that nature. They're grossly outdated. But in the meantime, as a part of recruitment and retention effort, we're looking to increase our vacation time for our employees because right now it's 2 weeks for the first 6 years.
Not competitive.
No. So, it will be going to 3 weeks out of the gate, and then go up all the way to 6 weeks over 15 years, I think.
Wow.
And then, also increased use of, the amount of sick leave will stay the same, but increased flexibility with use, for, family and parental reasons and things of that nature. Which is, something that, I'll be honest, If I'd been thinking, I probably would have requested that this committee look at that, but it was just something we knew we needed to do, and I had an opening in the schedule, and between having, you know, all the different departments and payroll and department heads and council, and I'll be honest, I might have skipped a step, but I'm happy to share that with you all once it's finalized, and welcome any feedback that you may have, because it's not set in stone per se, because it will need to be incorporated in the full update. But in the meantime, we just wanted to make some changes that benefited people immediately. So that's a really positive thing. It has not been done, I'm being told, in over 25, if not 30 years. We have not actually updated like vacation leave time and things. I will say, this is for non-union. We have 14 unions at the city, that I am lead negotiator for. And those contracts all speak to this stuff specifically. So, those will be updated as they're negotiated. So it's, still though, we're moving in the right direction. And it's a really positive thing.
That's in my mind. So I was like, can we look at the language?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to share that once it's finalized. Yeah.
And if you are, you know, in the midst of working on any other HR related policies, whether it's, you know, pay time off or recruiting or,
Retirement.
We got a subcommittee. We have a
benefits,
subcommittee.
anything like that, benefits, anything like that.
Yeah, originally it was something we were hoping to do this year. I'm not sure if it will, simply because we were able to get funding for HRIS system or Human Resources Information System.
Mhm.
And so we're about to put that RFP out, and
So,
that
yeah,
on
you'll be
top of
focused
the,
on that.
yeah,
that's a
on
lot
top of the
work.
website, which will include an intranet for
Mhm.
employees as well. We're trying to get those in place, and we'll also, those things will also play into the rules and regs as well. So that's been kind of put on the back burner, hence the urgency to get some of those benefits updated in the meantime. But yeah, we'll circle back around for sure.
Yeah, and, you know, as one of the members of the HR subcommittee, you know, I think just even a cursory review, even if
Yeah.
it's not a full like rewriting of the
Yeah.
policies, you know, just a cursory review of the
I
existing
think-
policies for like minor tweaks.
I hate to say this, but, they are so outdated. I think you'd be appalled if you read them.
It's really okay.
I was gonna say, I think that's been accepted as a challenge. Like, I'll do that.
Well, but I guess I'm saying that to point out that they're outdated enough that we know that they do need a full overhaul, to the point
Mhm.
where it's not worth our time internally to make small tweaks, except for as issues arise and we're forced to. The benefits was just the biggest thing that we weren't competitive. I don't know how we got away with it this long, sort of a thing. And so,
So is
it
your-
was something that was truly necessary to do.
So is your expectation that once you've got your HRIS, that you will, and you've got that fully implemented, that you're
Yeah.
gonna turn your attention to that?
Yes, yeah, because I also, if Debbie was here, she'd probably give me a look, but, we have over 600 employees, and I only have 2 human resource officers. And I'm also, the HR director on top of the ACM.
Literally everything that you
And
said.
I oversee the community connector. So our resources are spread thin enough that I have to safeguard in a way and prioritize pretty heavily. But obviously your expertise in particular, because I know you do that work anyway, in picking up things
Yeah.
that we may not, is certainly something.
Right, and
very
yeah,
valuable.
and certainly, you know, it's not our role to like put you on the spot and make you do work that you're not ready to do yet, but,
Mhm.
but like, you know, feel free for the policies that you have updated, you
Yeah,
know, feel free to pass those along and we'll
Absolutely.
eyeball them for,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm sure they're fine if you, particularly if you've had legal review them, but,
yeah.
but.
Well,
yeah.
there could be things that we just haven't considered as well that we could get feedback on and then consider, especially as part of the full update as well, or at least add it to the list. So, yeah, I'll send that out for sure.
And I just wanna, just circle back to some of the things the committee has done before for our new members. We've, even had, I think it was legal who came in and was like, we've gone in and revamped all of our, you know, the language. They wanna go look at the language, and it was one of our committee members who says, well, this isn't, I believe it's gender inclusive. They had noticed some areas where it wasn't consistent, and so they were like, you're right. And so they went and they made all those adjustments to it.
I think those ordinances, the
Yeah.
overall
Yep.
overview.
And so, I mean, it might seem small and insignificant to, you know, but it's a big, it's a meaningful change, you know, and I jokingly told Katie that I feel like we should have counted the number of pages that we have read over the course of the year. And the things that we've
And put that
done
in the annual report.
and put it in the annual report, because we really do look at all that information and, you know, to this, you know, eyes on the policy, you know, things
Mhm.
that might not rise
Oh,
to your
yeah,
level, right?
absolutely.
Will
Yeah.
rise someone else's level, just
Yeah.
a different framework, different set way of looking. at it.
Yeah.
That's why we are so passionate about the work coming through here. Yeah, it
Mhm.
means reading, you know, and highlighting and all that.
But
stuff,
that's also why these subcommittees are so important.
Yeah.
Because not everyone wants to read 100 pages of a tax document, while other people actually are like.
We're right, and we certainly
Yeah.
don't have time to do it during the meeting.
Yeah,
so-
yeah, yeah.
It's not like when you're sitting in class trying to catch up on the homework
Mhm.
assignment,
Yeah.
right? Was there anything else that you thought might need to be passed on for manager update?
I don't think so. We do expect to be in this building, for at least 18 months. And so that's a really big project that's undergoing, especially around communications.
Yeah.
Um,
How's it been going?
it's pretty good. We have had, actually I was sharing, before the start of the meeting that, for example, we're working on a longer term solution for the signage for how to get in here. Those electronic message boards are absolutely fantastic and I wish they could live there forever, but they can't. They're needed elsewhere in the city. So we are looking super simple, you know, city hall entrance with an arrow sort of signage to be more permanent up on the Penquis's billboard. I'm a little concerned people aren't gonna notice it as much. But unfortunately, maybe that paired with some, actual like stakes in the ground sort of signage might be helpful. And we're also working on additional signage. Unfortunately, we have had some, citizens try to enter, the city hall building despite the fencing. So we're working on additional signage, just alerting people to that as well. But in general, yeah, so all the employees are out of that building. They have started the demo related, especially to the first floor. They're doing some, like HVAC work and stuff on the other floors, but most of it's concentrated on the first for that more, user-friendly, sort of, experience for citizens. And we are just now starting to, if you go on the homepage on the left-hand side, it says city projects. We will be updating that with photos as we go
Wow.
along.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's pretty exciting. I think it's been, a long time in the works.
What was that building before it was City Hall? City Hall
It
obviously
was
used to be
the-
Main and Hammond, but,
Yeah.
was it the post office?
I think it may have been the post office at one point, but it was also a court
Oh, okay.
building. So in the old chambers, if you remember, there's a dais up at the top and then the tables. There actually used to be a wall like you would see in a courtroom.
Okay.
That was removed. But I think we took that over in like, I wanna say like the late 60s or so. So
Yeah.
it's been City Hall for a long time, but yeah, it was
See
federal
that.
court
I
building.
can see that.
And when you first walk in, they're hidden, but there's actually, I'm told, I haven't seen them yet, but I'm told that there's actually like really beautiful pillars that were hidden, during renovations decades ago. That will be
During
revealed.
urban renewal.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
they'll be, those will be revealed because
Cool.
we're trying to, you know, bring that back
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and really kind of showcase the historical aspect of that building.
Nice.
So it'll be, I think, kind of exciting for people to get in there once the renovations are done, just to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's interesting, actually. I walked out into the hall the other day and there was a couple getting married.
Oh.
So that's quite common. So I would imagine there's a few people waiting for the new building to
Oh,
get
yes.
married in, because
Yeah.
why wouldn't you?
Ooh.
But yeah, no, there's a lot of exciting stuff happening in the city and, I'm sure Debbie will continue to keep you all updated. But
Cool.
We're trying to figure out the next meeting.
That's really exciting.
the next meeting date,
Yeah.
I can share. Next meeting would be, the 27th, February 27th.
Just like to announce it in the meeting so people can put it in their calendars.
Yes, and we
In
will
advance of the Gmail.
definitely get
Google
the,
invite.
at least 6 months worth, I think, worth of, calendar, invites out, within the next week or so.
So there's nothing else on the agenda, for this evening. Just so you know, there are 3 members who were not here, no, 4. Evelyn, is our student, a high school student member, who's, I believe participating in the, count tonight. And then we have 2 others, right?
Yeah, we have
Melissa-
our college student.
college student Rebecca was, not here, as Gabrielle and Melissa are not, here as well, so we look forward to having them at the next meeting. We'll hopefully we'll have a nice full table and, you know, we'll meet again in the next couple of weeks to, work on the agenda. So if there's anything that comes up in the meantime, again, please reach out to us. We are happy to get on the agenda. It's not my agenda, it's not your agenda, it's our agenda. So we definitely want to make sure we're doing everything that you all want us to discuss. As I mentioned before, we are expecting to have Kara Pelletier. She is the city council chair. She also came out of this committee as well, so we're very excited to welcome her. And she'll be doing a presentation for us on her it's her company, right?
Yeah, she works for a nonprofit called
Yeah.
Disability Inn.
Yeah.
So she'll be coming in and doing a presentation. We tentatively also have Parks and Rec, set to come in as well. I will let you know that Katie and I, one of the things that we did also kind of discuss, and it will be coming forward in future months, Parks and Rec, they host dances. So they have one coming up for Valentine's Day and then they have one for Mother's Day. And this is a topic that comes up every year, which is what language are we using in these particular events? You know, the idea of mother, son, you know, father, daughter, you know, how can we be more inclusive? And what does that look like? And how can we assist with that? So that is a conversation that we have started to have and it will be coming through in the future. So, if anyone in the community events and education, you know, have any interest in tackling that topic as well, that's why they've already put the advertising out for this year's Valentine's Day dance. And I think they've already, kind of locked in their language for the Mother's Day dance as well, but that's why we said, let's start those conversations now in preparation for next year, so we can find, you know, the best way to approach it, because there's a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration, how many people can be there, ticket sales, all those sort of things. And I think this also gives us a really good opportunity to just look at other things that are happening in the language that we're using here at Bangor. To promote inclusion and what families look like and what healthy relationships look like. So, those are things that'll be coming through, this committee as well, so.
Just as a suggestion, for someone to potentially invite to speak to us as well, Marwa,
Yes, yes, Sanian.
Sanian, on the school board, also the DEI director at Northern Light. So it'd be great to get her to speak to us on the work that she's doing in Northern Light and how that spills over into her school board stuff, so.
Yeah. But you know a lot about kids. Yeah, that's a great recommendation.
She is great.
She is great, yeah.
Seeing nothing else, would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting? I move to adjourn.
Second?
Seeing no one against that, let's go ahead and close